Okay, picture this. You step into a living room, and it feels like the walls have just melted away. Sunlight is just pouring in, lighting up all this vibrant greenery that's, well, it's not just sitting there, it's practically alive. You can almost feel the breeze.
Yeah, that feeling you're describing, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Right.
We're exploring how modern luxury living rooms are evolving. And the big thing, the defining thing, is this really deep, intentional connection with nature.
Exactly. And we've got some really interesting source material here that sketches out this whole design philosophy. It looks at everything, from the basic architecture right down to the tiny details.
Yeah, it does. So our mission, let's say, for this deep dive is to pull out those key insights for you.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get past just, that looks nice, and really understand the thinking behind it, how these spaces are designed to create that elegance, that calm, and that strong nature connection we know you're interested in.
Okay, let's do it. So maybe start with the bones of the room, the architecture, because it feels like that's the foundation and definitely different from, say, older living rooms with just standard windows.
Absolutely fundamental. The sources really hammer home the importance of things like full-height, floor-to-ceiling glass doors, often in wood frames.
Oh, okay.
And it's not just about the view, though that's part of it. It's about actively blurring that line between inside and out.
Right, making it feel permeable.
Exactly. Visually, psychologically permeable.
But it's like the room can breathe, expanding outwards almost. And the light, you can just imagine the sheer amount of natural light pouring in.
Oh, yeah.
The material we looked at mentions how it just warms everything up, brings out textures and colors with such clarity.
Precisely. Natural light isn't just illumination. It becomes a core design element. It shapes the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of experience, another thing that pops up a lot is the idea of vertical garden walls.
Oh, I love that idea. It's described as like way more than just decoration, almost like a living piece of art.
Yeah.
Not just a couple of pots, but like bringing a whole mini ecosystem inside.
It really is. It adds this amazing lush dimension, a real vitality. So when you take that kind of architecture and these, living elements, and then you layer in the right materials and furniture, that's where the luxury feeling really grounds itself.
Okay, talk about those materials. The sources mention some really tactile, natural choices. Things like wood, stone, linen.
Classic.
And that buccal fabric, which, if you haven't felt it, is sort of looped and nubby, really cozy.
Oh, definitely. It adds so much texture. These materials, they contribute so much to that feeling of luxury and comfort. They engage your senses,
Yeah.
Sophisticated, but also earthy.
Yeah. And what about specific furniture, color palettes? Seems like there's a bit of a range described.
There is. You've got, on one hand, that sort of timeless, elegant vibe. Think cream or maybe emerald velvet sofas.
Ooh, nice.
Often with gold accents. Maybe layered natural fiber rugs underneath.
Yeah.
Very refined.
Classic luxury, but then there are bolder options mentioned too.
Absolutely. Making more of a statement, like imagine a sapphire blue couch against a textured greige wall, that great beige blend.
Yeah, I like great.
Or even a soft olive wall. That injects real personality.
Definitely.
And then there's also this whole move towards really earthy, grounding palettes. Sand, clay beige, warm stone colors.
For that calm feeling.
Exactly. Creates this deep sense of tranquility. It's interesting how they balance that opulence almost with this serene simplicity.
It really is. That contrast is fascinating, and it gets even more dramatic with some of the spatial ideas, like sunken living rooms.
Yes. What's so clever about those, especially when framed by garden views, is how they create intimacy. It feels sort of nestled.
Right, enclosed but not cut off.
Exactly. You're cozy, but your eye is constantly drawn outside to the garden, to nature.
And then the opposite, almost those double-height glass structures, that must feel huge, so full of light.
Oh, the scale is incredible.
The source called it a visual feast of green and light. I can totally see that. What does that scale do to the feeling of the room?
It just elevates everything. The sense of space, the serenity, all that light, those huge views. It can be quite awe-inspiring. Connects you to something bigger. But it's not just the big architectural moves. The smaller details, the curated pieces, they really add up to that luxury experience too.
Right, like sculptural lighting. I always think that adds so much character.
Definitely.
And those sleek marble coffee tables, maybe with brass or gold bases. That little hint of glam.
It's that subtle touch, exactly. Not flashy, just elevated. And then you see things like deliberately placing indoor trees often big ones in oversized ceramic pots.
Bringing the green right in.
Yeah, adding that vertical life, that energy. And textured walls, too, another layer for the senses.
And it seems even when the style is more minimalist, they still find ways to weave in that luxury feel. Subtle glam touches, I think the source called it. How does that work?
Well, in those cases, it's all about really careful selection.
Yeah.
High-quality pieces that make an impact without shouting.
Okay.
So think maybe sleek sofas or chairs in, say, charcoal or a soft blush pink. Rugs made of silk and jute, perhaps, with subtle patterns, texture without noise.
Nice.
And maybe gold-framed art, positioned just right so it maybe reflects the garden view. It's about harmony, understated elegance.
I love that idea. And even more integrated, the sources talk about indoor courtyards or built-in planters, actually building nature into the house.
Yeah, that takes the whole inside-outside blurring thing to, like, the next logical step, doesn't it?
Totally.
It transforms potentially dead space into something living, breathing, an ecosystem almost.
Wow.
The examples are beautiful, like a curved cream velvet sofa circling a low oak table, and right there, facing it, is a built-in wall for growing herbs.
That sounds amazing, like a lifestyle choice, really.
It leans into that, yeah.
Yeah.
Embracing a slower pace,
Yeah.
appreciating nature right there, shows so much intentionality, even down to the wall color. It's not just paint, it's a mood setter.
Right, the psychology of color. What examples did they give?
Let's see, moss green, obviously for calm nature vibes, pale terracotta for warmth, earthiness, muted sage, also very tranquil, even earthy mauve.
Mauve, interesting.
Yeah, each one chosen to evoke a specific feeling, a particular atmosphere.
Makes sense. And obviously, light is huge in these nature-connected spaces. You mentioned the natural light, but what about artificial lighting? Chandeliers?
Well, yes, a striking chandelier or maybe a sculptural gold pendant can add that layer of sophistication for sure. But the source material is really clear. Soft, natural daylight is the star. That's what brings everything to life.
The main event.
Absolutely. It highlights all those textures, the colors, the plants, and you often see these spaces kept quite open, uncluttered, letting that light just fill the room, letting the space breathe.
It sounds like it's all geared towards creating a certain flow and experience, not just a static picture.
Exactly that. The focus shifts, according to the sources, to how everything works together. The furniture placement, the light and shadow, the plants, to create this seamless rhythm.
I like that phrase.
It's a space designed to be felt, to be lived in, not just looked at.
So back to those sunken rooms for a sec. It's clever how they feel cozy, intimate,
Right.
but still give you those wide open, eye-level garden views. You're sheltered but connected.
Perfectly put. And with the double height rooms, adding tall indoor trees like olives or fiddle leaf figs really emphasizes that dissolving boundary.
You become like sculptures themselves.
Living sculptures, yeah, blurring the lines between building and nature.
Such a thoughtful way to design. And even subtle things, like you said, wall tones, soft sage versus grege, how they ground the space or make it feel more airy.
Yeah, those choices have a huge impact on the overall mood. And then sometimes you get bolder moves, like a whole wall done in fluted wood.
Ooh, texture.
The massive texture, visual interest, warmth, real natural materiality.
Which brings us back to texture being so key for luxury here. It's not just about smooth and shiny.
No, definitely not. It's more about a symphony of touch, as one source put it, layering different sensations.
Right.
Well, imagine sinking into that Bocal chair we mentioned, or the feel of a rich velvet sofa, maybe sapphire or moss green, the weave of a hand-woven rug, the cool touch of brushed brass on a light fixture. It's multisensory.
You can almost feel it just hearing about it, and the light must play beautifully off all those different surfaces throughout the day.
Totally. The sources mention again those wood-framed glass walls, deliberately capturing morning light, framing the garden like this ever-changing painting.
Yeah.
And as the light moves, it hits different things. A gleam on a gold chair leg, dappled shadows from tree leaves, and it's dynamic.
It really sounds like everything is connected, working together, and these biophilic elements, the living walls, big plants, courtyards, they sound less like optional extras and more like fundamental.
That's a really key point. They're moving from trendy add-ons to being like core principles.
Yeah.
Even in minimal designs, that nature connection is prioritized. Through the actual greenery, the earthy colors, the open architecture, drawing your eye outside.
Yeah.
It taps into that whole biophilic design idea, our innate need to connect with nature.
So putting plants and natural light in isn't just nice, it actually makes us feel better.
That's the idea, yeah. It contributes to calm well-being. And color, we touched on it, but it's used strategically too, like storytelling.
How so?
Well, like a clay beige wall sets a warm, calm backdrop.
Okay.
But then maybe a bright emerald sofa acts as a focal point, adds drama, personality. It's all part of the narrative.
Got it. And you mentioned details. Are there any often overlooked ones?
Actually, yes, the ceiling. It's easy to ignore.
Sure.
But the sources point out things like light wood beams adding warmth, or carefully placed recessed lighting for ambiance when daylight fades. Every surface counts.
It really does sound, as the source said, orchestrated. Every single piece playing its part.
It's a perfect word for it, a whole composition. Every material, plant, color contributing to this overall feeling of luxurious comfort, relaxation, and that nature connection.
So luxury here isn't about showing off or just having expensive stuff. It's something else.
Exactly. The source sums it up as luxury as clarity.
Clarity.
Yeah. Clear sight lines to the outside, clean air maybe from the plants. That clear, unobstructed connection to nature. It creates this almost meditative, retreat-like feeling at home.
So it's more than just a style trend. It feels like a shift in thinking.
It really does. It's described as a movement, a conscious choice to make spaces that are beautiful, yes, but also sanctuaries that prioritize well-being. And whether you're aiming for pure comfort or visual richness or just the joy of a garden view, the sources emphasize that the key is always in those thoughtful details and that seamless blend of modern style and nature.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the main ideas. It's about dissolving those inside-outside walls.
All right, blurring the lines.
Using natural elements as design features, not just decor.
Central parts.
Being really intentional with materials and textures.
That's sensory experience.
Understanding how light and space flow.
Yeah, the whole rhythm.
And basically redefining luxury as being about serenity, connection to nature.
That's the heart of it. And for everyone listening, understanding these trends gives you a new way to look at modern spaces. Maybe even inspire your own home, no matter the size.
Right?
Because this approach is really about well-being, finding calm in our everyday lives.
Which kind of leads to a final thought for you all to chew on. In a world that's so full of tech, so built up, how might consciously bringing nature into our homes actually reshape our daily lives, our whole feeling of what home even means?
That's a good question.
Something to notice, maybe. That interplay between nature and design in your own world. So, you might be noticing this real shift happening in living spaces lately. Think back maybe to older styles, where every single inch felt like it had to be filled up.
Right, shelves packed, walls just covered.
Exactly. But now there's this move towards something, well, different. Much more open, uncluttered. It's almost like the room can breathe.
A breath of fresh air, yeah.
And today we're going to do a deep dive into exactly that, this modern luxury aesthetic, and especially how it connects so strongly with nature.
Yeah, we've got this really descriptive piece of writing that kind of lays out the key ideas behind it all.
Okay.
So our mission really for this deep dive is to pull out those core principles, help everyone understand the thinking, the intentionality behind this style that's, well, everywhere now.
Right. And there's some fascinating concepts to unpack, aren't there? Like, we'll look at how empty space, negative space, can actually be powerful.
Definitely.
The effect of those neutral colors,
And
how texture adds so much character.
The materials, too.
Yes, natural materials, the role art plays, even how our other senses get involved. And the big one, I think, is blurring that line between inside and outside.
That indoor-outdoor flow, yeah.
Yeah,
It all creates a very specific feeling.
it really does. Okay, so let's get into it. Where should we start? Maybe with that idea of empty space. It seems counterintuitive almost.
It does, a bit, because traditionally, like you said, the impulse was to fill surfaces.
Right.
But this modern way of thinking, it really values the space between things.
Yeah.
The negative space. So imagine like a low sofa, very sleek, and then maybe a simple coffee table, white marble, or that lovely textured travertine.
A travertine, yeah, that porous limestone look.
Exactly. The space between them isn't just empty. The source we looked at calls it a canvas for light and shadows, which I think is beautiful.
That's a great way to put it. The space itself becomes part of the design, like that other image from the source, the corridor for calm.
Oh yeah, between the big planters.
Yeah, just deliberately leaving that walkway clear. It's not just about what you put in the room, but what you consciously leave out. Gives you that sense of calm.
It really does. And that flows nicely into the colors, doesn't it? The palette.
It does, because the colors contribute hugely to that feeling of calm and space.
Absolutely fundamental.
Yeah.
We're mostly seeing Warm whites, creamy sort of beiges, maybe some soft olive greens.
Very earthy, very natural tones.
Exactly. And the key thing is, they're not meant to shout. They're there to enhance the view outside, to let nature be the main event, the art, as the text says.
So the walls are sort of whispering, letting your eye go to the window or maybe to the textures within the room.
Precisely. And there's actually some interesting psychology behind that, too. Research suggests these muted tones can lower our cognitive load.
Oh, interesting. So less demanding on the brain.
Yeah, lets your mind relax, helps you notice the subtler things, the natural elements.
But neutral doesn't mean boring, right? Because texture seems huge here.
Oh, absolutely. Texture is where all the personality comes in.
Yeah.
Even with those quiet colors, you layer different textures and bam, you get depth, interest.
Tactile interest.
A source gives some great examples, like picture a chair and maybe a nubby buccal fabric.
You mean that looped, almost fleecy texture?
Yeah, that cozy feel. Or maybe linen. And then contrast that with smooth velvet cushions, maybe dusty rose, or a warm golden tan.
Ooh, nice, that mix.
Or think about like a rough aged wood bench sitting next to a really sleek modern metal lamp.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. The rough and the smooth together, it wakes things up.
It does. Or a soft woven rug under a cool polished stone table. It's about that contrast, but also the craftsmanship, how things feel.
Yeah, it's not just visual, it's asking you to engage more senses, which seems to extend even to the walls themselves.
It really does. We're moving away from just flat paint. Think fluted wood panels.
Those vertical grooves.
Yeah. Exactly. Or natural plaster, which has its own subtle variations. Lime wash gives that soft, chalky look. Even ceramic tiles used in interesting ways, playing with light.
Adds another layer, doesn't it? Something for the light to catch. So, okay, texture is key. What about actual art? You said nature is the art, but is there still room for paintings or sculptures?
Yes, definitely. Art is there, but it's usually more understated. It doesn't dominate.
Okay.
The themes often tie back to nature, abstract shapes, maybe earthy landscapes, botanical prints, that kind of thing.
Subtle, harmonious.
Exactly. And the source mentions sometimes you'll see little pops of gold or maybe sapphire in the art, just tying into other accents in the room. It's all very cohesive.
Right, it's not trying to grab all the attention. And you mentioned other senses earlier. It's not just sight and touch.
No, definitely not. This approach really tries to be holistic. So, thinking about scent, maybe an indoor herb garden.
Oh, lovely, like basil or rosemary.
Yeah, those natural aromatic scents. Or sound like a small water feature bubbling just outside. Or maybe one of those rain chains.
That gentle sound.
These aren't just add-ons. They're part of creating that overall feeling, that sense of sanctuary.
Crafting an atmosphere, not just decorating a room. Okay, so one of the really defining things you see in pictures of this style is that indoor-outdoor connection.
Absolutely fundamental, that blurring of the lines.
Yeah.
This source talks about the living room just flowing right onto the patio. Almost no barrier, big sliding doors, often wood that just disappear.
Dissolving boundaries, yeah. It makes the whole area feel bigger.
It really does. And it's clever how they create that continuity.
How so?
Well, by using similar plants inside and out. And repeating materials, so if you have wood floors inside, maybe you use similar wood decking outside. Or stone.
Ah, I see. So your eye just travels smoothly between the two.
Exactly. It creates what the text calls a holistic zone. It doesn't feel like separate spaces anymore.
Just one larger living area, deeply connected to the outside. Okay, let's talk furniture. Because it's not just about function here, is it?
No, not at all. The furniture itself often feels quite sculptural, curated, artistic even.
Like pieces of art in themselves.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Think about those curved modular sofas, maybe in an off-white or a soft cocoa velvet. The shape itself is beautiful, organic. Or accent chairs, maybe charcoal buccal, but then softened with a silk throw, or a woven pillow. Each piece feels chosen.
Selected for its form as much as its comfort, and how it's arranged. It's not that old symmetrical look, is it?
No, definitely not. Forget those rigid layouts. Here, placement is guided by, well, natural things.
Like what?
Like how the light moves through the room during the day, what are the best views, how do people actually move through this space? It's much more intuitive.
That makes so much sense. Designing for how you actually live, not just for how it looks in a static photo. Okay, what about the small stuff, the details?
The details are where the real magic often happens, those little things that add up. Like the subtle sheen on a brushed gold lamp, or the slightly uneven edge on a handmade ceramic vase. You can feel the maker's hand. The grain in reclaimed wood.
Things with character. Imperfections, almost.
Exactly. It contributes to this feeling of lived-in luxury. It feels authentic, intentional, not mass-produced.
Quality over quantity. Everything feels chosen. And speaking of authentic, we have to talk plants. Greenery, it's more than just an accessory here.
Whoa, way more. Plants are like co-stars in this design store.
Co-stars, I like that.
You see everything from big, towering indoor palms reaching for light to delicate little ferns, maybe elegant olive trees, bird of paradise plants for a bit of drama.
A real variety. And where they're placed matters too, I assume.
Hugely. It's very strategic. They might be used to soften a sharp corner or frame a window view perfectly. Or echo the green you see just outside the window, strengthening that indoor-outdoor link. The Force calls it a quiet choreography. It's all about setting a mood, an intention.
Not just filling space, but adding life, both visually and literally. Now, we've talked a lot about how these spaces look, but the Source really emphasizes how they feel.
Yes, this is crucial. It goes beyond just looking nice. These rooms, they just feel right.
That sense of peace you get.
Exactly. That feeling of being grounded, like you belong there.
Yeah.
It's almost instinctual. And studies back this up. Natural patterns, textures, they can actually lower stress.
Which ties into biophilic design, doesn't it? It's more than just having plants around.
Much more. Biophilic design is about consciously weaving nature into the built environment, recreating its rhythms, its patterns, its sensory details.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like, think about a rattan light fixture. It's maybe slightly asymmetrical, organic, and the way the light filters through it, the shadows it casts, changing through the day, that mimics natural light patterns.
Ah, okay. Subtle effects.
Or even just the weight of a heavy, textured cotton throw on a sofa, or how natural materials, jute rugs, linen curtains, cork, soften the acoustics in a room, makes it quieter, calmer.
So it's engaging all the senses in a way that feels natural, restorative. And it also sounds like these spaces are designed to support how we actually use them.
Precisely. They facilitate activities, rituals. That sunny window seat just invites you to sit and read. A corner filled with plants becomes a natural spot for quiet time. A big, comfy sofa encourages conversation.
It's not just a stage set.
No. The Source calls it a new dimension of luxury rooms that actually nurture you, emotionally, mentally, maybe even spiritually.
That's a shift, isn't it? Luxury not just as showing off wealth, but as well-being, inner peace.
Exactly. And the styling reflects that too. It's about intimacy, not perfection.
How so?
Well, instead of a perfectly sterile space, you see things like a stack of books with soft linen covers, or just a single flower stem in a beautiful handmade vase, a woven basket with blankets tossed in.
Personal touches, things that tell a story.
Yes, and displays of natural fine ceramics, driftwood, stones, maybe some mechanical sketches, things that connect you to nature, to memories.
If you found this video helpful or inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Interior Blockchain Studio for more expert design ideas, trends, and creative inspiration. Your support helps us bring you even more amazing content, so make sure to turn on notifications and stay updated with our latest uploads. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.